Discover the Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast, hosted by Tiffany, Benitez, and Jordan Franklin. Here, the complexities of being a woman in the tech industry are unraveled through discussions on key issues, personal growth, and how to succeed despite systematic challenges. It's a source of empowerment and inspiration for all women at all stages of their tech careers. We are so excited to be here with you today. And man, oh man, we have had an interesting few minutes before we started this morning. We actually said, from now on, we're going to hit recording as soon as we get on. We try to make sure things are all good and gravy and then we get started. But we've had a super powerful conversation before we even got on. So super excited to see how this is going to flow today. But today we are here with the phenomenal Erika Finnestead. Did I say that correctly? Okay. I just want to make sure I try to never mess up names, but Erika's phenomenal. She has, if you know anything about her, if you've seen her on LinkedIn, she is just a phenomenal leader. She is consistent. She is strong. And I was actually kind of telling her as we started, like, I don't even know you. Like, we haven't even had a conversation, but your brand speaks for itself. And that's why we're here today. So a little bit about her. She is a dynamic force, really driving innovation and inclusivity in the tech space. She's currently in the tech and public and transportation industry, but a seasoned technology leader with a passion for harnessing power, the power of innovation, showing that to people, demonstrating and creating that positive change. She's got a lot of background and expertise in software development, project management, and digital marketing. She is the former Chief Marketing Officer of Preferred Office Technologies and is currently serving as the Marketing Director for Ozark Regional Transit. I love this piece. Like, Erika is like a phenomenal blend of like your tech and your marketing. You bring those together, and that is Erika. So she spearheads all kinds of initiatives really focused in promoting sustainable urban development and equitable access to transportation. So Erika, big kudos to you. I see you got the most recent achievement of the successful Ambassadors Transit. I love that project. Really advocating for social equity as the DE&I chair of the Junior League of Northwest Arkansas and leveraging marketing strategies to drive public support and engagement. So I could probably go on and on. Erika, you are phenomenal. We are so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really grateful to be on your platform. I see everything that you do for the community. And honestly, I'm just really excited to be sitting with y'all today.
Well, we're super excited to have you and to kind of set everyone up with where we're going with our conversation today. So the purpose of our podcast is to bring women together. We're really creating a safe space for each other and making space at the table, right? Tiffany and I love to say making space at the table, because if you get to the table, you need to pull up another seat, bring someone with you. So we all have faced so many dynamics in creating competition, hate, division. It's not really pretty, but we're all in that same ecosystem together, right? So today we're going to kind of dive deeper into those topics and what creating space for others really means to you. So what does that really mean to you, Erika? Like, creating space for, I know we were just having this conversation. So creating space for people at the table, or create is how we say it, right? What's that mean for you?
Well, I'm trying to think. I mean, I had a whole answer prepared. I was like, this is what my answer is going to be. But honestly, after we had our conversation about everything that could go wrong will go wrong at one point, and it's really great kind of when it happens in good company, because we offer grace for each other. And I feel like that's kind of what creating space is. It's offering that grace of almost accountability for yourself, because if I expect you to be perfect at all times, that means I expect me to be perfect at all times. And in all reality, that's not going to happen. So why can't I give you the grace that I give myself, or vice versa? As a woman, we generally don't give ourselves that much grace. You know, we have to be perfect, and this has to be perfect because we're the most perfect thing in the room, or nobody's going to listen to us. But when you want everybody to let their guard down, you have to kind of take accountability for your reaction to any situation. And as a leader, when we take accountability for that, and we take accountability for how we react and the things that we say, it allows us to hold that space for other people, because they know, like, they're taking accountability, I can kind of do the same thing, and everybody kind of lets their guard down.
I absolutely love that, because I think you said something powerful there. We ourselves often are the ones that
have the least amount of grace for ourselves, right? So we're ones, as women, I feel like we're always like, okay, yeah, we're going to give that person grace. We're going to do that, right? But for ourselves, we don't. And I think that we have created some dynamics, I think society, right, in general, not even pinpointed to a person or a time, right? But over time, I think things have consistently spiraled to a place where there are some very real things that we as women are facing and some dynamics that are really not great, but we just keep operating in them because it's been done that way since the beginning of time. And so Jordan touched a little bit on, like, honestly, like the competition, the division, and let's just be real, the pettiness, right? As females, that we really like, we're just going to be real because that's who we are. Okay. So if you don't know anything about us, what you see is what you're going to get. And I think that it's really important that we talk about this because it's not just talking about it. It's the reality of why we as women are not moving forward as fast as we should be. It's truthfully not mostly because men don't want us to be there. It's because we as women hold each other back and we as women hold ourselves back, right? But I think it's a topic that's really, really important. And so I want to know if, like, in your career and in the industries that you've worked in, have you experienced, honestly, these dynamics among females?
I would say, just like really quick, to pull that word like competition out. Like I feel like sometimes that gets a bad rap because people are like, are you competitive with me? Like, oh, you don't like me. And then the pettiness comes up. But I feel like that pettiness comes from lack of collaboration. And that's where that kind of bubbles over, because you can be competitive, and I see it in sports all the time. And, you know, you're seeing it in like March Madness right now with women finally being able to use the word March Madness or that phrase for branding. And you see, you know, the Caitlin Clarks like talking smack and, you know, going up against, I think it's Angelina Reese or Angel Reese. I'm going to say her name wrong, but, you know, they're clashing but they're bringing out the best in each other. You know, they're competitive, but they're making each other better. And I feel like that as women, for a long time, we were told that we can't be competitive because that's a negative quality, or nobody wants to be around that kind of a woman. But now we're starting to like accept that about us, and it's making us grow. And it's saying like, hey, you can be my competition, and acknowledging that and saying you're my competition, but hey, like, let's make each other better. Let's be respectful competition. Like, I'm good and you're good. There's always going to be like a best, but you guys are still going to make each other better. And then that pettiness comes in from insecurity. And anytime I see pettiness come up, like bubble over, and I'm guilty of it. I feel it, and we all feel it. You know, you get that little warm sensation when that one person is around, and it's not a good sensation. It's not the butterflies in the stomach. It's like, oh, you kind of roll your eyes a little bit. But then I learned a couple of years ago, when that feeling starts to come up, like I say, okay, is it the person or is it your insecurity? Is it because they command the room a little bit better than you? And maybe that's something that you can learn. Is it because they're doing this? And so it forced me to do some like self-reflection and say, why do I feel this way? And then how can I get better so that when that person is around, I see them as a growth opportunity and I can continue to respect them, so that when I'm in these board meetings, Tiffany, like to your question, where have I felt these feelings? When I'm in those board meetings and I get that from another woman, or you know, a he, him, a they, them, or a she, her, when I get that feeling from them, I say, okay, what am I doing that makes them feel like I'm not an ally? And I don't care what the gender is or the sexual orientation. Right. And then, and I'm not saying like, oh, you know, all I think about is like my behavior, but it's really like, how can I create that space? Like Jordan said, how can I create that space so that they know that their ideas are just as important as my ideas, and vice versa, and that mutual respect is there, so we can be competition, we can be pitching the same thing, we could be up for the same role, we could be in the same role, but I want them to know that I'm here to collaborate and not to undercut them, so we have that space, so that we build that trust. And so when I do encounter those situations, I try to turn them into an ally, because I will always advocate for that woman in the room. I may not like her personally. We may disagree on a fundamental level. We may have nothing in common, no common thread. But if she is in that room and she is presenting, she will have my undivided attention. I will nod. I will stop somebody from mansplaining her presentation to her. If the conversation people start to mumble, I will quiet them. So I will always respect that person in the room. And that goes to even conversations when that person's not around, because I don't want other people to say like, oh, I'm going to go gossip to Erika about so-and-so because of her behavior. No, if you come and talk to me and you talk about Tiffany, you're going to put some respect in her name, because you know that I'm not the person. I'm not the one, and today is not the day. If you want to complain about how big personality she is and how she steals the light, it's like maybe her air, and when she walks in a room, she does it with confidence because she earned that. Maybe it's a you thing and not a her thing. Let's have that conversation. And people don't want to have that conversation with me.
Yeah. Well, and I think that goes right to the point of like maybe one of the words that we missed, right, in our little purpose is jealousy. Like, I feel like I'm at fault for this too, right? Like you said, it's that bubbly up feeling. It's like, oh, I want that so bad, but how do I get there? Like, I'm almost jealous of that, right? But like you said, I think you've got to take a step back and say, okay, I recognize that in myself, that's I'm being jealous. Like, oh, I like that. That's really cool. I kind of want to do that too. But it's the self-reflection too, right? Like, you've got to have both aspects of it. You've got to be able to say, okay, I know I'm dynamite in what I do, and I'm kind of jealous of that. So I need to work on that.
It's that self-accountability.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also like knowing that she is good at what she's good at, and I am good at what I'm good at. And like you said, Erika, we can both be good. I think that's the problem. And the reality is it all boils down to we're all human, right? We're all human. We've all been hurt. We all carry baggage. Really, that's the root of it all. Okay.
Yep.
But I think that we refuse to like have that self-accountability. I think we refuse to dare reflect back on ourselves, to think like, are these feelings because of something that's maybe not healed in me or that I'm insecure about? I think that's really like the root of it. And here's the thing, that's never going to stop happening. Like, as much as we grow, as much as we mature, it's going to be a natural thing that comes about when someone is really strong or when someone's shining. But the difference is to not be ruled by your emotions. Okay. And to act on the pettiness that even may well up in you that you feel. When you act on that is when it becomes dangerous, right? That's when you actually start destroying us in entirety as humanity, and definitely our gender, right? Like, we're already faced with so much as women. Like, stop creating additional things for us to be faced with, right? Just own the peace. And I think what you said you do, Erika, in those moments is key, right? When you feel it immediately, because you're not going to stop, it's natural. Like, you're going to feel that here and there. But when you feel it, you stop and you ask yourself, is it a me thing? Right? Is there something like, what about that person makes me feel like that? And then the second piece of that I really touched on a second ago is that you are not called to do everything. Like, if she does it really great, let her do it really great. Don't be mad she's doing it. If you go to her and say, hey, you did this really amazing, like, I would love to like learn from you. She is going to, I'm telling you, without a shadow of a doubt, 99.99% of the time, she will help you. She will mentor you. She will give you anything that she's learned. Like, women that are really winning will do that. That's why they're winning. Petty people, I saw that thing on LinkedIn. Like, it's people at the top are collaborating. Right. Mm-hmm. So the competition is a healthy level of competition, but when it has taken you over on an unhealthy level, you will never be at the top. So you're going to continue doing all of that at the bottom. You get to choose.
I think when you feel that well up, I think you realize, wow, they're doing something amazing. Right. And that's that jealousy or pettiness that wells up. Right. I have realized that turning around and, just like you said, Tiffany, either congratulating them or asking them for advice is the best avenue, because you're like, wow, you're doing something so amazing. I'm kind of jealous you did it, but it's really not in my wheelhouse. And I just want to tell you how great you're doing, because if someone tells me that I look cute during the day because I actually got myself put together, then I'm like, yes, I did something great. But if they recognize me, like we were talking before, Tiffany recognized me on a slide deck for being in technology, right? Which I had never considered myself. I'd always considered myself quasi-technology, but she recognized it, and that meant the world to me. And it was 3 words, right? So I think if we stop, say, oh, wow, someone's doing so great, and we actually take the chance to congratulate them or tell them that we see what they're doing, that brings their day up, right? And that's a lot of what we talk about.
And really quickly, I know you probably have another question, but I like to think like in those immediate moments, if I can't do any quick self-reflection, I learned a while ago that there's a fine line between being excited and being anxious. And when I get that feeling, I immediately tell my body, you're excited for this person. Like immediately. If I'm in a meeting or if I get somebody's energy and I'm like, you know what, I feel like the vibe is off, just be excited to meet them and to see what they're going to do and turn that immediately, because then it changes your whole shift, because everything is about perception. It's your perception versus it's like Tiffany, like you said, it's your experiences. Maybe your whole career, people have been backstabbing you and stealing your ideas. And so I may say something to Tiffany or Jordan, I may say something to you, and you both will hear it differently because of your experiences. And so because I can't control that, and you can't control it with me, you could ask me a question and may not know that it's something that I don't like that people ask me. Yeah. Instead of living in that anxious, I choose to live in that excitement, to say, like, what am I going to learn? I'm excited. Obviously, they know this better than I. Let's figure it out. And the 0.1% time they roll their eyes at me and don't want to say it and don't want to share, I say, hey, you know what? You earned it. You don't want to share? Hey, I'm not mad at it. You did the work. You keep it. There is no ill will here, no love lost. You have the right to say no, because no is a full sentence.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. So would you say that in your career, would you say that you've experienced more resistance from females or from males, or than they? What would you kind of outline as your experience?
I mean, it's really kind of what we spoke to before, where the negative feelings that I get from women, I chose to believe that it was because their history and it wasn't them as people. And the longer that I, had conversations with them, even if it was just a smile or a handshake, or I introduced them to somebody and then they realized that I was next to them and not in front of them, I felt like it immediately switched, and they were like, you know what, she's a girl's girl, she's going to be my ally, she's going to be my person. And that's what I want people to feel when they meet me, or when I'm in a situation for them, whether it's a boardroom or a networking event. I want them to know that. So I feel like maybe if I dwelled on the negative, I could say that it was probably women more, but in all reality, that 0.5 seconds of feeling that emotion or feeling that energy from them switched to something completely different, something supportive, where they were like, you know what, Erika is this, and the amazing introduction that Tiffany gave me, all of that. It would be wrong of me to blame a 0.5 second interaction for somebody who'd never met me before, and then they meet me and they're like, actually, I kind of like her. And so they became my best advocates. They became my support system. They became my negotiators and, the people that went to bat for me. I mean, in the extended people that have given me the most difficult situation, I would probably say that I get that a lot from men. And that comes from a lot of different places where they're not used to seeing me in a boardroom. They're not used to me being the authority on a matter. I mean, I walk into a boardroom, I'm 5'2.5" on a good day. And I don't let people interrupt me, especially if I'm giving a presentation. I say things like, oh, I'll get to you in a second. Or, yes, I just explained that. And I have blue hair, Also, I'm a woman, I have blue hair, I'm 5'2.5", and I'm a Latina. Like, this is a weird combination to have you walk into a boardroom where they're not used to it. I mean, granted, I usually have like really amazing shoes on and stilettos that make me significantly taller. But sometimes I walk into my Doc Martens. And I learned that from Legally Blonde, if anybody on this podcast or if y'all have seen Legally Blonde. And, she is her. This is who I am. And I can be this way because this is my personality, but also I know what I'm talking about. And you can respect myself and you can respect my personality.
So I can 100% relate on the opposite end of the tall, short spectrum. So I'm 5'10", and I wear heels all the time. So I'm like 6'1", and I will literally look at a person's LinkedIn page to see if I think they're short so that I can wear flats. so that I'm not so overpowered.
No.
I finally stopped doing that about 5 years ago, where I was like, I don't care. I just don't care. So much so that one of the salespeople we had at Stratus, he was like, she's so much taller than me all the time. And I took my heels off and I was actually shorter than him. And he was like, I didn't know you were this short.
It's just your
short's 5'10". So I was like, that's just because I've tricked you all these years. So no, I completely, I think it's so funny that that's one of the things we think about is like, you thought about, I always think about what I'm going to wear. What am I going to wear to this board meeting? What shoes do I need? How am I going to present myself? How many other females are in there? Also depend, like, guys don't really care about anything other than height and if you're presenting well sometimes, right? And then they'll start listening, right? Like, you've got to look the part. Like, you've got to be put together, but you're not going to come in sweats. But if you forgot lipstick, a girl's going to notice and a guy is not, right? And let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, Women in Technology of Northwest Arkansas and Gumption at my-gumption.com for their support. Their contributions are critical in bringing these meaningful conversations to you. Stick around for more engaging discussions right after this break. They're going to be like, oh man, she forgot to put mascara on. Has happened.
Well, to that point, really quickly, to forgetting to put mascara on, I have had a man say, you look tired in the workplace. And I looked at him and I said, I just want you to make a mental note to never speak about my appearance ever again. And he was like, oh, I was like, no, I was like, I know you must have thought like, oh, this is something to say. It's not. And don't ever say it to a woman ever again, especially in the workplace. And if I overhear it, then it's going to be a more serious conversation. And he was like, okay, yeah, like it's okay. Because that's something that we have to think about. Like, nobody will go up to a man and say like, ooh, what's going on there? We didn't
you got some bags under your eyes.
On there, and they won't judge them any different, and they will still continue to listen to them. And I feel like that's another way to make a safe space, especially in the workplace, is to know that you don't always have to be like perfectly dressed and your lip doesn't have to be done. And because those are things, and I remember I had a conversation with male coworkers. It was a big group of us and we were all standing in a circle randomly, just chatting. And they said something to me and I said, yeah, but I have to get ready earlier than you because I have to do my hair, I have to do my makeup, I have to do this, I have to do this. And then I walk through the door. Because if I don't do those things, then you don't listen. And then he said, yeah, but women are so much better at everything. We have to do something to hold you back. And I was like, what? And I said, I know you meant that as a compliment. And I know in there, you were like, this is something to say to Erika. I don't know why, but you did it. And you did it with your chest. So congratulations. Do you see the error in that? To say women are so much better, we literally had to do something to hold you back. Do you see the error in that statement? And I think he did because he stopped talking from there. But that is something that we deal with, Yeah. Where could we, and I, as a TikToker, an African-American gentleman on TikTok, he said, I have to explain to people constantly why their microaggressions impact me. And he's a doctor. So he's like, I wonder what I could have done in my life if I would have been able to conserve that energy to use it for something else. And I feel like women do that too. Like, if we didn't have to, we get the cutest outfits and we get the makeup and we get all the things, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love my outfits. On the flip side though, what could we do throughout the day if we didn't have to hear those microaggressions, right. Have somebody talk down to us, have somebody mansplain to us, where we're constantly on the defense instead of saying like, how could we have grown today? Instead of, I'm so exhausted from explaining to so-and-so about why calling somebody X, Y, and Z is not okay. And, trying to push through that so that you can cultivate the young talent that's coming up to kind of protect them from that, because you don't want them to not be in tech because they're getting, sexist comments and misogynistic phrases, and they're not being invited to meetings and, getting their knowledge tested just because of their age or the way they look or their outfit. How do we protect that generation to grow to become the next leaders without having that stumped because they need to be held back because they're so good.
Right.
I agree. I think the thing is that for a long time, right? And even still to this day, there's very few that are going to stand up and have the conversation. So in that like uncomfortable moment, at least he said it to Erika. And instead of Erika just feeling sad and walking away or feeling mad and walking away, you addressed it, right? And I think that there's some power in that. And I think that what we need to do is we need to start having the conversations. We need to start addressing the things. You can address them in a complete professional way, just like you did, right? But if we don't talk about it, and if we don't talk about the bias, if we don't talk about the microaggressions, if we don't talk about the pettiness, like it never gets better. That's the point of this. The whole point of this podcast is for us to start having the conversations and the dialogue, because having those conversations and just one person thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one, creates some freedom, right? We're creating space for other women and men too, right? Our allies as well to say, wow, I actually did think that one time, even if it's not said out loud, like I did think that, and wow, maybe that is a microaggression. And I never, most people don't have malintent. So that's the deal. We just say things and think things because of those unconscious biases that we just say it. So I think having the conversation, talking about it and addressing it is extremely important. When I talk to male allies, or we have panels or we have speakers, and they're like, and they often say, what can we do to help you? Right? As allies, how can we come along this journey, and what can we do to help you? And it's listen, right? It's listen and understand what's actually happening, so you can even on your own have that self-accountability. And then my next biggest thing is, once you realize what's going on, address it, change it. And then celebrating is huge, right? The celebration of people's accomplishments for us as humans in general, regardless of what your race, gender, ethnicity, like we all need to be celebrated. And so in that, I want to know what your thoughts are around, like, I feel like it's essential for women to really celebrate each other's successes and achievements, right? So whatever you focus on, whether it's your jealousy or insecurity because she is doing so well, or like you said, flipping it around and being excited for her, whatever you focus on is how you're going to be and what's going to come out. So I want to know what your thoughts are on like how we can really do more of like celebrating each other's successes, and how this really helps to amplify each of our voices and accomplishments.
I feel that it's kind of like being part of the cool kids club, like, oh, so-and-so's doing it, so it must be cool. You don't, and Tiffany and Jordan and all of us have seen each other's respective careers, and we've never like met in person, and we've never done anything, but we've celebrated each other in our own ways. I mean, even having this podcast and having this conversation. But if Jordan says I'm cool, then her friends will be like, oh, Erika's cool. And if Tiffany says it, then Erika's cool. And then, it's kind of like that. We're all each other's influencers. So that I feel like we need to remember the power of our own influence in society, where if, there's 20 of us that say 20 of us are cool, now 40 of us are cool. And I use the word cool, but in all reality, it could be professional. It could be, the best podcaster. It could be the best, CMO, CIO. It could be all of those C-suite things. If we encourage each other and we celebrate each other's wins, and we comment on LinkedIn stuff, and we share accomplishments and celebrations, and when we do those things, we tell our audience it's okay to do it too. It's okay to celebrate other people because so-and-so is doing it, because Jordan's doing it, because Tiffany's doing it. It's okay to do it. And just because I say Jordan is amazing at this, it doesn't mean I'm any less amazing. It just means now there's two amazing humans, and the same thing for Tiffany. So celebrating somebody else is not saying that we are less than. It's saying, honestly, if I have amazing women in my life, which I do, I have so many amazing humans in my life. And I've specifically met and introduced my daughter into some amazing leaders in Northwest Arkansas and around the country, and honestly around the world, because I wanted her to see that. Because and this is selfish as a mom, she sees me surrounded by all these cool people, and naturally she's like, my mom's cool. Not always the case because she's 15, but she says, and I tell her, baby girl, I was like, you are the company that you keep. You 100% are the company that you keep. And all of these amazing humans, she only knows me for having strong, powerful women in my life, because I don't see them as competition. I see them as I see, you know, Kayla and Kayla, the people that own Collective Real Estate, they launched their agency and they are powerhouses of empowering women. And she knows that I don't see them as competition. I see them as the authority on a topic. I see so-and-so as the authority on a topic. And I know I don't know everything, but they know everything about this and they know everything about that. And I'm okay not knowing. And so I feel like that's where that celebration comes and that appreciation comes, is saying like, hey, you're cool and I'm cool. And now there's a bunch of cool kids.
Well, I think a portion of what you just said was amazing. Well, all of it, but what I grabbed, right, was you have to realize what you're good at and realize that not everyone's your competition, right? Like they can be amazing in their space and you can lift them up and be cool with them, right? But that's not your space, right? And I think being a CEO, you have to understand that because you get better people next to you because you understand your brain. But like that's where you got to get to, right? Like again, we're talking about self-reflection here, but you've got to know what you're good at and what you need to fill your spaces with, right? And that also helps as a mom too, right? Because then you're filling your spaces and you're showing strong women in different positions to your children, girl, boy, whatever, right? And then they see, oh, look, I can do that. I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I could really do any of these things.
Yeah, and on all reality, that is what it was so great. My daughter made an offhanded comment about being a chief of surgery or something, and she's 15. And she's like, yeah, I think maybe instead of going to pediatrics, I think I want to be like a chief surgeon. She said it very casually, right? And she is also a young Latina. And I cried because she is in a world now, and we've created spaces, not just me, but like other women like yourselves have created spaces where they are no longer the first. They are no longer having to trailblaze. The path is there. Mm-hmm. It is easy, and that's what we want. We want it to be easier for the next person, for the next girl, boy, they or them. We want it to be easier for them. And I know there was a part of me in my career where I was jealous that it's easier for the next group. And then somebody quickly set me straight and said, that's the point. The point is for all of us to stop being trailblazers, because that's, you know, what true equity is. They have the opportunity for it. And so my daughter's saying that so offhanded because she knows that it's possible. And my sons, like you said, my sons know that women can do all these things because their mom's done it or her best friend's done it. And if you want to do, and it was so sweet. My son said this to his college bestie. She was talking about an internship in logistics. And he's like, oh, I bet you my mom knows somebody. I bet you I have an aunt that does it, because all of my best friends are his aunts. He's like, I bet you I have an aunt that she could like hook you up with and you can get an internship because, you know, my mom is surrounded by them. And I was just like, yes, King, I am surrounded by amazing, powerful women that I do not see as competition, but I see as just the amazing humans that they are. So I celebrate that long answer to your question. That's how I celebrate them.
I think that's amazing. And the thing is we're replicating, right? So you, without even really realizing it, right? Because you're just living your life, you know, day in, day out, but we're replicating things that our children and our next generation, children or not, right? Like my kids' friends come over and, you know, like they're watching that and it's making a difference in how they see things. It's making a difference in what they're willing to accept and how they're going to turn around and do that same thing. So your daughter's going to walk into a room of powerful women and be like celebrating them internally and not competing because that's what she's watched. And I would say if there's anything that's ever going to be held on to, it's make sure you really understand that, because you're replicating something, whether it's for the positive or for the negative. And our next generation, they're taking in and feeding in, like our children, our children's children, they're watching what we're doing. And it's really important that we don't take even our broken parts to replicate that, right? Let's show them the power of coming together. Let's show them that all of us, male, female, or whatever, we are better together. Okay. We hear that term all the time, but it's true. Like you can do something really amazing by yourself. I can do something really amazing by myself. But the power of what we can do together is really, really important. But we don't talk about that. We're in a me society. I've got to like get to this role. I've got to get to this title. And yes, you need to own your career. And there's some things that you will like you will fight for you and you will do that. But in the midst of fighting for you, if you take the hand of that next person or find you a really amazing mentor that's already been there, the power of what can happen of y'all coming together. And we really have to start replicating that, because we're not just being petty and damaging that for ourselves. Like, we're creating that, and we're creating mean girls, and we're creating jealousy, and it's just too much. Like, we really need to start talking about this and doing it different.
Yeah, well, and I think the other thing is something you said, Erika, was that you've created almost like this mentor board for your children, right? Like, I think that's fantastic. Like, you've sat there and kind of curated your friends.
I mean, and honestly, like I forget where I wrote it down somewhere, that they are my board of directors. It's how I got to the position that I'm in. I remember I mentioned my friend Kayla, because she was at a women in networking event and she spoke, and she was at the very start of her career. I believe she was a secretary at a real estate agency. And she said that she wanted to become a real estate agent. And she said, like, her whole plan, and this was years and years ago. And I was like, I need to be friends with her. And that's how I pick my friends, of like, I see the things that I was like, oh, I love that energy. They don't do anything halfway. And I was like, oh, I just want to be around that. It's just so amazing. And my friend Taylor, the same way. She works at Sam's Club headquarters, right? But she started as an assistant manager at a local spa. And that's where I met her. And she
Taylor Torino.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. But see, when I met her, it was when she was, an assistant manager at that spa, and she had given me a tour, but she was telling me like her goals. And I was like, oh, this energy. I love this energy. And anytime, and that's the thing I love about Taylor, because you all know her, I'll talk about her a little bit more. Anytime you're in a space with her, she is like, how are we going to get you there? If this is your goal, how are we going to do this? Let's do this together. Like, I have this and you have that, and let's do this. And Erika is this and she is the queen of that. And so those are the kind, like you said, I intentionally surrounded myself. And I feel like people don't create their friend groups intentionally as they get older. It's kind of just like, oh, this is my friend from work, and this is so-and-so's girlfriend or husband. Or so we're kind of like, oh, let's see if we can make friends. But I was like, okay, I am not of Arkansas. I am of California, and I got here with no friends. And so I said, okay, networking. And I'm one of my dear friends, Lara Donaldson of Sam's Furniture. She was the first person I met, and she walked right up to me, so sweet. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. And she like pulled me in close. She held my hand and she said, I will be your anchor point for networking. You come and see me at any networking event, and then I will, be your anchor point. Then you go meet 3 people, and then you come right back to me. And then I'll introduce you to 3 people. And she did that for years. She was my anchor point. And she still, anytime I see her, I just gravitate towards her. I'm always happy to see her. But that's women lifting other women, her making a space to say, I understand that you're scared, and I was that person too. Let me be that person for you. And she did, and she helped me grow and network. And now I know so many amazing people. And I forget which one of you said it, that's kind of like the point. The point is for us to continue to create that space, to continue to lift up other women and say, it's okay for you not to know because I know, and then let's do this together. And I feel like that is the difference between hateful and helpful. Hateful is me walking up to you and saying, obviously you're lost. Let me show you how this is done. Versus helpful, which is me going up to Lara with that doe-eyed look in my face saying, hi, I'm Erika. I'm trying to network. And her saying, hey, sweet girl, let's do this together. And she says, would you, I asked for the help and she gave the answer. She gave it willingly and sweetly and out of the goodness of her heart, and she's still that person today. And so I feel like that is the solid difference between hateful and helpful. Are you doing it because they asked? Are you doing it because out of a place of like genuineness to help them grow? And if it's not, then it's probably hateful.
Well, and I 100% agree with that. And I think the networking aspect and the friends aspect, like you said, right, is so important, because we're not in high school. They're not just going to be we're not just going to have friends. Like, being intentional about your friend group is, if I'm going to put my effort into it, I want to make sure I put my effort into it, right? It's like, I know this sounds really bad. It's like picking a nonprofit. You're not going to go pick one that doesn't correspond with your personality and values, right?
Yeah.
You don't really want to be gifted friends that aren't within your values either, right? So I too was very intentional. Tiffany and I are great friends. We're also a whole bunch alike. But that being very intentional, and quite frankly, to tell you the truth, it was my husband that said it. We moved to Alabama. We had the same experience. Moved somewhere, had no clue who anyone was. And he was like, we need this person, this person, this person, this person. These are the aspects that they need to be really good at. And I want a girl and a guy in each segment. And it was so funny because he was like, we need a doctor, a lawyer. Like he outlined. And seriously, when we went to go start our first company, we had friends in each group to put that together. And we had a team of people and it was done in a week. Like, so, I mean, being intentional and like you said, your board of directors, I think that's huge for people to understand. Like, we're not in high school, guys. Like we've got to have our own board of directors, and those are selected. Like they can be your best friend. You could probably still tell them that I selected you to be my best friend. Because I've actually gone up to someone and been like, I think we should be friends.
I've done that too. Maybe that's why all of us really get along, because I've done that a number of times where I'm like, okay, I like your energy. We're going to be friends, whether you want it to or not. Like it's going to happen. But it goes back to that intentional board of directors. It's every aspect of my career, or my career has gone through the 7 different boards of directors, and they hold different positions, where one is that cheerleader, one is the one that's going to ask all the different questions, one is, you know, she is going to say like, okay, she's going to be devil's advocate. And so we have all these different people because everybody's different. And that's something that I learned in leadership as well, is you're going to have a team of 7 and you're going to have 7 different personalities. And even those people might have different personalities in there, whether it's a good day or a bad day. So you have 14 personalities. And I've learned that's the same thing with friends. And it's the same thing for mentors. And so being able to say like, hey, Taylor, I need some objectivity. Like, what am I doing here? What are my next steps for career? What does this look like? Hey, Kayla, I'm looking at joining into the nonprofit world, which is where I'm at now. I've never done anything like this. Is this for me? And she, you know, I was on the phone with her, thank God, 'cause she might have slapped me. She was like, Erika, you love the Northwest Arkansas community. Public transportation is what connects the community. And this is serving the people, and this is what you love. You're known as a people connector. You connect people all the time. Now you're just doing it physically. And she's like, with your, you know, expertise in marketing and technology, you can help more people. She was almost like, it's a non-starter. Like, why are we even having this conversation? Like, go accept a position. What are you doing? So, and it's because I had those people in my life that said, duh, I know your resume. Like I was telling you a second ago about Lakeisha. She walked in and I was telling her, like, oh, I'm going to do this podcast about, you know, women in tech, but I'm not really in tech. And she reminded me to take a good look at my resume to show how in tech I am, and especially, you know, mathematics with the analytics and the things that I do. So having that board of directors in your life, because they know you almost better than you know you.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, I'm super sad that our session is ending. I could literally, I feel like we have we handpicked people. So we knew, like, you know what I mean? We knew there were like some powerful things, whether and again, this isn't personal. Like we've never even sat and had a conversation with Erika, but we know our vision and our mission of what we're after. And so we want to connect with people regardless of what their title is, right? That are really after that same mission and vision and creating space for people, fighting for diversity, fighting for equity, cheering other people on. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. This has been amazing. I think my cup is literally, every time I do this more and more, I feel like my cup is like flowing over. We're like work all day and we do all these other tasks, and we're even still probably working a little at night, but this is what keeps me going. Like these conversations, and knowing that like we had this amazing conversation right here, but all of our listeners are now going to get to hear these same conversations and hopefully be an opportunity to be encouraged and say, wow, I don't have to compete like that in a negative, unhealthy way, right? I can clap for her. I can be around her. I can ask her to mentor me. You know, I can figure out how to learn from her. So thank you so much for joining us today. We are super, super grateful for you coming, and I cannot wait to continue a friendship with you because you are amazing. So
thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yes, please. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on here. I'm really excited to hear from your community. If they have any questions, please let them know. My LinkedIn inbox is always open, as you, Tiffany, and Jordan know. I just want to be here to help support and mentor the next generation of leaders.
Great. Oh, well, we loved having you. We love your inspiration and all of your ideas. And like she said, we will have her LinkedIn. Everyone's information will be at the end of the podcast, and you can reach out to Erika as you see fit.
Thank you for joining us. Have an amazing rest of your day.
Bye.
Well, that's a wrap. Another episode of Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast. Thanks for tuning in and sharing this time with us. If you liked what you heard, please share this episode with your friends in tech. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Your support helps us keep bringing in inspiring guests and uncovering topics that matter to you. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and making your mark in the tech world. Goodbye for now.